Mr. Cotton here, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to help walk you through moving from your Faces of History paper to being able to prepare for a Faces of History presentation to the class. And so I'm going to show you the way that I've done that with my students at home. And so I want to take a look here. This is my son's paper from last spring that we'll look at just so I can show you how we took this paper to prepare for presentation to the class, to our audience, and to our guests. Okay, so here's his paper. You'll see, let me just make a couple notes about MLA format first. You'll see the final copy of his paper has his name, the date, the essentials class, and his title, which was an unlikely Roman hero. He was writing about Spartacus for his Faces of History last cycle. And so you'll be able to see through here. And so you'll see his paper here. Each paragraph is indented. The whole thing is double spaced. And when you get to the very end, you'll have your works cited or bibliography page where the entries are alphabetized. This is B, G, and S. The second line or third line on each entry has a hanging indent, and the whole thing is double spaced. So that's what the final paper would look like. And I just thought maybe it would be important to show that to you as we're preparing for our final copies of the paper. But then, so he's got a completed paper here, which is super great. What do I do with this paper to help me prepare to present it out loud? Well, here's what I have encouraged my students to do and what might work for you. Here's a second copy of the paper, and what I did is I asked Alex to highlight what he thought were the one or two most important sentences from each paragraph. And so that's what we've got here. You'll see that in the first paragraph, he highlights the introduction. It says, or the intention getter. It says, have you ever heard of a person who fought in the Roman army, then deserted the Roman army, led bandits, was caught and sold as a slave, and led a rebellion against Rome? He thought that was the most important sentence of that paragraph. And then the next paragraph, he chose the first couple of sentences. Spartacus was a gladiator. Gladiators were usually slaves, criminals, and prisoners of war. There were usually 200 or 300 gladiators at school. Spartacus's school had 200 gladiators. So you see, that's actually three sentences because his sentences are super short and kind of choppy, but it kept all the information that he thought was essential from that paragraph. And in the next paragraph, he chose a couple of sentences again about the way that Spartacus's men captured and set fire to the place where they were staying, and then cut the Romans to pieces. Okay? Then at the end of his paragraph, he chose the opening of his conclusion, and he decided that those were the most important couple of sentences from each paragraph. So then what we did is we just took, I'll show you here, we just took those sentences, I pasted them on the left-hand side of this document, by paragraph that they're in, and then he wrote a new keyword outline from the paper, from those sentences, that would be his outline for giving the presentation. The other thing we're going to notice is that in the paper it said, have you ever heard of a person who fought in the Roman army? It says Spartacus was a gladiator. But in the outline, he changes it to first person because you're going to play the role of that character. So you're going to say, this is what I did. So his presentation begins, I fought Roman army, deserted army ran, led bandits raids, sold slave, rebellion against Rome. And so he would use that keyword outline to stand in front of the group and make his presentation. And that's the skill that we've been working on the whole semester. Right from the beginning is being able to take the keyword outline and use it to speak all of the details of what we're trying to communicate. And that's what he would do here with this keyword outline. And you can see that in the second section here also. I equals gladiator, gladiator equals slaves, criminals, prisoners of war, 200 to 300 gladiators in a school, my school equals 200 gladiators. And you could see how he would be able to use that, look at the keyword outline, look up at the audience, and really communicate what he wanted to say in his 2 or 3 minute Faces of History presentation. So when you get to the end of this outline, you see no one found my body, death equals mystery, me famous rebellion. And that's a pretty solid conclusion as he puts all the words into the keyword outline. Okay, so then if we just scroll a little bit here, you'll see our keyword outline all on one page that he would use for his Faces of History presentation, filling in the details as he goes. Now, you'll notice one more thing at the bottom of this outline. We've added the question, who am I? Because we're not going to say in the presentation who you are. You're just going to say, these are the things I did, this is what my life was about, and give that information that comes throughout the paper in summary. But then at the end of the presentation, you're going to ask the audience the question, who am I? And then our audience of classmates and our guests are going to guess who you are. Okay? Now let me show you just one more thing. What Alex did was prepare a set of note cards. And on his note cards, he used each one of these sections on a different note card. So he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 note cards, wrote out that keyword outline on each of the note cards so that he could hold those cards and prepare for his presentation. You would want to do the same thing. You could rehearse that in front of your family, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, somebody that you trusted, and then you could practice and be all ready to do it in front of the group for our Faces of History presentations. Hey, here's a picture you can look at of our students from last year at Faces of History. You can see the smiles on their faces after they presented, and I hope that you are really looking forward to having a great time when we do it together next week. I'll see you then.